All right, we're going to dive into the incredible story of a man who did something truly radical. He built a bridge between ancient mysticism and modern science. And in doing so, he completely changed how the entire world sees yoga. This is the story of Swami Kuwalyananda.
So here's the big question at the heart of it all. Is yoga an art or is it a science? You see, for centuries, yoga was this deeply personal, almost mystical thing. But then came this game-changing idea. What if you could actually measure its effects? Could you test it and prove it with science? Just asking that question, well, that was enough to spark a revolution. Okay, so to really get how huge his achievement was, we have to travel back in time a bit. Let's look at the world he was living in, because in the early 20th century, yoga was stuck, caught between two completely different ways of thinking.
And this wasn't just a small disagreement, it was a major clash. You had two totally different worlds. On one side, you've got tradition, right? Yoga as this ancient, mystical practice. It's all about what you feel, your personal experience. But on the other side, you have the rise of modern science, which is all about cold, hard facts. It demands proof you can measure. And yoga? It was trapped right in the middle of this tug of war.
You know, at the time, most people thought you had to pick a side. It was either or. Are you a traditionalist or are you a modernist? But then this one figure emerges, and he doesn't pick a side. Instead, he asks this really powerful question. Why choose? What if we could actually synthesize these two worlds?
And that person? Well, that brings us right to the man of the hour. See, he wasn't born a Swami. He was born Jagannath Ganesh Goon. And as we're about to see, his very unique background made him pretty much the perfect person to tackle this huge, monumental task.
So picture this. It's 1883 in Gujarat, India. This is the world Jagannath Guna is born into, a world just buzzing with change. On one hand, he's totally immersed in this rising tide of Indian nationalism and culture. But at the same time, he's getting a formal education in Western science and mathematics. So you've got these two incredibly powerful currents shaping him from day one.
And this blend of influences, well, it gave him this incredible toolkit that almost nobody else had at the time. Think about it. He had the logical, analytical mind of a scientist, but also this deep, genuine respect for India's ancient traditions. This made him uniquely equipped to look at yoga through a completely new lens.
You know how every great story has that one pivotal moment? That turning point? Well, for Jagannath Gune, it came when he met his guru. This was the moment where his two worlds stopped just coexisting, and instead, they collided. And that collision created something brand new.
So, under the guidance of his guru, Paramahamsa Madhav Dasji, he starts doing all these traditional practices, asana, pranayama. But here's the thing. Where everyone else was feeling these spiritual effects, Gune, the scientist inside him, he saw something else. He saw physiological processes, things that could actually be observed, measured, and quantified.
And that insight, it changed absolutely everything. It was at this moment that the scientist Jagannath Gun becomes the visionary Swami Kuwalyananda. That new name, it symbolized his new mission in life, to take this ancient art of yoga, investigate it scientifically, and then present it to the modern world in a language it could finally understand.
But look, having a great idea is one thing. Actually making it happen, that's a whole other story. Swami Kuwalyananda wasn't just a dreamer. He was a doer, a builder. He knew he needed to create a real, physical place where these revolutionary ideas could be put to the test. And that brings us to 1924. This year was absolutely pivotal. He founded Kaivalya Dhamma. And listen, this was not just another ashram. No way. This was a revolutionary research institute designed from the ground up to study yoga with a real scientific rigor. And get this, in that exact same year, as if founding the institute wasn't enough, he also launched a journal called Yoga Mimamsa. This was one of the world's very first academic publications dedicated to sharing this kind of research with scientists and doctors all over the globe. What a year! So what exactly made Kaivalya Dhamma so special? Well, the genius was in the design. Picture it. You've got modern laboratories and clinical facilities right next to traditional halls where yoga was being practiced. It was literally the physical embodiment of his entire mission, all under one roof. And his focus wasn't on vague, mystical claims about enlightenment. Nope. He was all about the data. He conducted controlled experiments, looking at how practices like pranayama, breathing exercises, had measurable effects on things like respiration, circulation, even the nervous system. He was gathering hard, scientific proof. So, what's the big takeaway from all this work? What was the result? Well, his legacy is nothing short of the complete transformation of yoga's place in the modern world. It's that big a deal.
You can actually boil his whole method down to a really simple but powerful 3-step process. First, you observe the practice. Then, you experiment with its effects. And finally, you verify the results. His whole point was that yoga shouldn't be blindly accepted, but it also shouldn't be skeptically dismissed. It should be tested rigorously.
And this rigorous scientific approach, man, it had massive implications. Because he was providing actual empirical evidence for yoga's benefits, he basically laid the foundation for entire fields that we just take for granted today. Things like modern yoga therapy or the use of yoga in sports science, a lot of that started right here.
When you really think about it, his whole legacy comes down to this one idea. He was the ultimate bridge builder. He connected the East and the West, tradition and modernity, practice and proof. He showed the world that science and spirituality, they don't have to be enemies. They can actually be complementary tools for understanding what we're truly capable of. And that really leaves us with a final big question, doesn't it? Kuwalyananda's story is incredible proof of the power you can unlock when you unite different ways of knowing. So it kind of makes you wonder, what other ancient wisdom is just sitting out there, waiting to be explored and validated by modern science? What's the next great bridge that's waiting to be built?